Welcome to Tapped In with Tony. I am your host, Tony Bogan, and tonight joining me and Eddie, I know you're probably gonna enjoy this, is the former roughest, toughest, thuggish, ruggish, meanest lunch lady in Washington County, the most recent graduate, Scotty cum laude. They call him the Money Man Scottie D.
It feels good. Yeah. Tony has done it again.
Yep. I
What's
like
up,
that, man.
Tony?
Yeah, man. That's from the 90s. It's great to get a chance to talk to you, man. I've enjoyed you guys' work on the SportsBros Podcast.
Yeah. I'm from the 90s. So, yeah, we appreciate you checking us out every week whenever you get a chance.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Doing a podcast, there's like a billion people out there doing podcasts. So if you get anybody at all listen to you, man, you're really appreciative of it.
Oh, yeah. I've had Eddie come on the show before. The Almighty Be Live supposed to be coming on soon. So,
Yeah.
Some big things ahead. Maybe Tapped In with Tony a Sports Bros Podcast collabo in the works.
We could do that, man. We could do that at some point. Yeah.
Oh, and you gotta tell Be Live as far as NASCAR drivers, they're athletes. Mike Harmon and Ryan Newman come to mind.
Oh, those are athletes? Those guys.
Yep, NASCAR drivers like Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick, you name it.
That's a debate that we have ongoing from time to time. I don't always necessarily agree with that. So that one's me and Be Live. We go around on the NASCAR and soccer thing because those aren't really my cup of tea right there.
But it is the Dallas Cowboys, of which you have my dearest sympathies.
Yeah. It's and growing up and now having returned to Western Pennsylvania, it's not always easy being a Cowboy fan here.
Oh yeah, I imagine when you're in a sea of Steelers fans, and trust me, I live in Ohio. I don't know where all these Steelers fans came from.
Yeah.
And the Eagles too. There probably is a smattering of Eagles fans as well.
Yes, some, but it's pretty hardcore Steelers around here. I mean, it's across the board. Even growing up in elementary school, there was like me and one other kid were Cowboy fans, and then everybody else was just all hardcore Steelers for the most part. And I lived in South Carolina for 24 years, and a lot of Steeler fans are down there.
Oh, wow, they're everywhere. Like
they are.
Seen terrible towels at games at Carolina, Seattle. They're everywhere.
If you talk to Steeler fans, they will tell you we are the best fan base because we are the most well-traveled. You can go anywhere and you're going to find a bunch of Steeler fans. And there's a reason for that. It's because we leave. It's cold here in Western Pennsylvania. So you go other places. Have you ever seen anybody leave Arizona and move north to open a Cardinals bar?
No,
that doesn't happen that way. You don't see people leave Miami and say, I think I'm going to go up to Pittsburgh and open up a Dolphins bar where it's nice and cold. It doesn't work that way. So that's why Steeler fans are so well traveled because people leave Western Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, and you got Browns backers bars all over the world.
Browns, considering they have never won a Super Bowl, have an incredible fan base.
They do. I mean,
they're actually my second favorite team, and the fan base is a big part of why I root for Cleveland.
If 1-31 in 2 years stretch didn't drive them away, I don't know what will.
Well, you have a fan base who has been disappointed and brokenhearted year in and year out. Yeah, they still show up in 20-degree weather with dog bones in their mouths at the game. So you gotta give that fan base a ton of credit, man.
Hey, I got none but respect for Browns fans. If they can go through all of that, and I think eventually they're going to win a Super Bowl championship. It's just a matter of time.
I hope so. I don't know if it's imminent, but I hope they do at some point. Everybody should get to experience seeing their team win a Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. And I did as a Saints fan 2010.
You're a Saints fan. Yeah, that was a really exciting year that year.
Oh, yeah.
Super emotional year.
Oh, yeah. I wish it had happened in 2019, but we're not going to talk about that.
Oh,
but instead, we're going to talk about, tell us about yourself. Where are you from initially?
I'm from Western Pennsylvania. I grew up in Washington, Pennsylvania. That's where I'm at currently. I moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in 1996 for the summer. and I stayed there for 24 years. I had just graduated college. I went to Cal U here in Western Pennsylvania, which is now called Penn West, and that's another story that none of us are super happy with that name change. But so I graduated from there. I moved to Myrtle Beach just for the summer. I had nothing else going on. I ended up sticking around and made it a life there. Stayed there for 24 years.
Gotcha. And what was your favorite part about? Well, besides the weather, what was your favorite part about being in Myrtle Beach? I've only been there once myself personally, and that was for about an hour.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Really?
Yeah, we were driving from North Carolina, believe it or not, to a family reunion, but mom and sis wanted to check out Myrtle Beach, so we went down there. But we had to try to get back because, there aren't a lot of highways, especially in that part of South Carolina.
No, there's not. You're really taking a lot of side roads to get in and out of Myrtle Beach. But my favorite part, I guess it was for me. I'm not really a beach guy. It was more, I guess, that I went there for the summer, for the beach, for the party life and all that. And just when I stayed, I just ended up making roots and made a lot of friends and really loved the people of that area. So I would have to say that it was just finding a comfort zone there. It wasn't so much that I said I want to be a beach guy, I want to live at the beach. It's just I went there, liked it there, and I stayed there. And that's pretty much how that went. And I love the golf. I mean, there's golf courses everywhere. Now it's developing a lot in Myrtle Beach right now. And a lot of those golf courses are getting shut down because they're just putting up tons and tons of more condos and homes and that type of thing. But can't beat the golf down in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, there was a certain speedway down there which unfortunately closed a couple years back. It was Myrtle Beach Speedway. I don't know if you've ever been there.
I was not there. I remember them talk that. I remember that being in discussion though. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the Xfinity Series race there for the longest time, I believe, till 2000.
Now you're not speaking my language anymore.
But yeah, it was a speedway. It was a speedway down South Carolina because I know everyone talks about Darlington, which is famous in and of itself. NASCAR.
I actually was there.
Oh, how was that?
It was miserable. I went thinking, I went there on the theory. The first time I ever went to an NHL game, it made me become a hockey fan. I wasn't a big hockey fan until I saw it live for the first time. And I thought that might happen for NASCAR. So I gave it a shot. I went to a race and I couldn't wait for it to be over. I just couldn't wait to get out of there. There were so many cautions, and it's not like other sporting events where you can like sit and talk to the person next to you. It's so loud and don't get me, it is super impressive, the cars and the the speed and the power of the vehicles. But yeah, it's just you're not there. There's not much socializing going on at a race.
Yeah, because at the Southern 500, I don't know when you went, but the Southern 500 used to be in the daytime. It could get humid in South Carolina.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah,
and stormy as well.
It's storming here right now. Can you hear the rain coming down outside?
It was raining up here in Ohio actually all day today, and yesterday it was 80 degrees and sunny.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both here today, but it's raining hard right now. So I didn't know if the sound was not disturbing you at this point.
Oh no.
Okay,
I'm used to it by now. It's going to rain the next couple days, so I may as well just get used to it.
Yeah, it's not looking good in the forecast the next few days for sure.
And this was also with Myrtle Beach. You also had, this was before Coastal Carolina. So what were some of the teams that people followed usually? I know the Panthers were a relatively newer franchise.
Yeah,
well, a little far away and so on.
I worked in a sports bar for 16 years. It was a huge sports bar. And in Myrtle Beach at the time, there wasn't a lot of competition as far as that went. Since then, there have been more that have, come around, and like I said, it's a place in constant development. But being in that area, you had a lot of South Carolina Gamecocks fans, a lot of Clemson fans, obviously, but so many people, like I said, moved from up north that there were a lot of Steeler fans, Baltimore Ravens, Browns, Patriots were good, so a lot of Patriots fans were coming around. So it really, and in that part of South Carolina, in Myrtle Beach, because it's such a tourist area, there is just it's a melting pot. Even like the majority of the relationships I made down there, the close friends I had, they weren't all local. There were some, but a lot of them were like myself. They've moved down from New York, Boston, and other areas, and so it really is a melting pot in the at least the North Myrtle Beach area from what I experienced all those years.
Gotcha, because I know Myrtle Beach could be a real tourist town. They probably get a lot, especially during the summer.
Summer is crazy from about probably mid-June to about mid-August, especially because that's like prime family time where kids are out of school, and before a lot of kids get back in mid-August, or they got football camps or cheerleading camps or band or whatever. So those really, like those 8 to 10 weeks from middle of June till middle of August, man, it is crazy heat and crazy amount of people and crazy people. I mean, I worked in a restaurant for a long time, and especially since I'm a sports guy, preseason football time, by the time you get to August, people are starving for football. And there was no preseason package at that time, like, on DirecTV, where you can get every NFL game every Sunday. There wasn't like that for the preseason. If we could find a game on the old school satellite dish or on NFL Network or internet feed and be able to show a couple games, man, people just flocked to the bar and they couldn't wait. But unlike the regular season, all they care about is the first half. So you got 1,000 people coming in at one time to watch only the first half, and it made for some crazy nights in August for the preseason tourist crowd. So yeah, that was nuts.
And I know closer to when the Sports Bros started, which we'll get to that. How was it like being there when Coastal Carolina was making their run through the college baseball tournament and eventually won it all?
That was an exciting time. It was like, because that kind of came out of nowhere. That was like a surprise. We had the Gamecocks had a lot of success in baseball prior to that. So, you're not expecting, Coastal was kind of a nationally known school, but I think a lot of it is because it's the novelty of being a beach school. But all of a sudden that year they got hot and everyone in town was really excited for it. I don't remember what year that was. Maybe 16, somewhere there.
2018, I believe.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
It was really exciting, and all the locals were fired up for it, and so yeah, that was a pretty cool thing, and that was during the time of year that we weren't particularly expecting to be busy at that sports bar, which was called Overtime Sports Cafe. We were not really expecting to be really busy, but all of a sudden it got our attention. Like, man, Coastal's good. We better be ready for this. And sure enough, people they came out and really enjoyed that atmosphere. That was a fun little run there for sure.
Absolutely, and especially with the rise of the football team. I know that was 2020, but still,
yeah,
football team started to get good around that time
for sure. Yeah.
And speaking of before COVID, tell me about how did the Sports Bros podcast come to be?
Well, I had met Eddie and Brian years ago. I actually had met Brian Live. I don't think he remembers this, but I just mentioned to him recently. We both were working at a resort in the summertime. I was working poolside service, serving drinks and food, and he was, I think, doing like room service type of things, or that he was working in the hotel. But I knew those guys from coming in mostly for karaoke. Those guys were like the life of the party. Those two guys and their third guy, JR, who they were really close with, and they grew up together pretty much. They were long-term friends. But I just always knew, like, man, I ran karaoke at that place for many years, and it is a pain in the butt. Like, it's a lot more fun if you go to a karaoke bar, have a couple drinks, and then leave. But whenever you're the guy that's hosting and you're there for the whole night, man, it's a rough gig. But when those guys would come in, I was always happy to see them because they were kind of like the life of the party. They were just really good guys. I mean, they're just good people, and I used to, just like Be Live and I do now, I would always cut up with them. I'd introduce them as Be Live or whatever, and just just to get at him a little bit. And they had like the best sense of humor. Those guys were a lot of fun, and we actually had a contest that Eddie won one year, and Be Live and JR were kind of like his backup dancers and singers, and it was they just always were a lot of fun. So that's how I met them. Then life happened, and I didn't see them for a long time. Like I said, I was friends with them, but not like super close friends with those guys. And then right around probably 2018, 19, somewhere in there, my sports bar closed in 2018. So I was not working there, but I used to see Eddie put these posts up of different sports things like this happened, your team's going home, different things. And I was like, man, I miss the banter of being in a sports bar all the time. And I told Eddie, I used to be able to come here and share my opinions. And now I'm sharing it with the couch because I was home by myself. And I said, I think it'd be awesome to do a podcast with you at some point. And he kind of liked the idea. I think he had dabbled in that before at some point. And around the time we were starting to talk about going through with it and maybe trying to work on something, his mother got sick and passed away. And that kind of set him back a little bit. Like he initially was handled it very well, but I think it was one of those things that the reality didn't sit in right away. So the first time I saw him, she had just passed and we had talked about doing it. And then after that, it was like he was kind of off the grid for a little while, trying to regroup. And so, that's a very heartbreaking, traumatic experience. And so he started to finally, sort of get back to somewhat of a normal little, doing life normal again. And so we talked about revisiting that idea, and then it was his idea to bring Be Live in. And so we're like, let's just give it a try and let's lay some groundwork down. Let's not get into the turmoil that is the sports world, the politics side of it. I said, let's just keep it to the fun stuff. I don't want to, let's not get into the, at that point we were coming off of the time where the national anthem thing was really tearing the sports world apart. People kneeling for the anthem, whether you were for that or against it, it was divisive. And I didn't want that. I said, let's talk about the fun part of sports. Let's do that. And let's try to keep it clean. So that if our mothers want to listen to it, our pastors want to listen to it, we can say, listen to this and not worry about, having some strong adult content. And we all agreed that would be a good path to take. And so we've kind of stuck with that. And I think as time goes on, our chemistry has improved and gotten better and better, which I think it was pretty good from the beginning. I think that you can sense that we're just having fun. And just like if you go sit on a bar stool and watch a game and you strike up a conversation with a couple other sports fans, that's kind of what we want. And we want to bring other people in with it. That's why we do the question of the week and ask, we solicit opinions a lot because we want people to feel like, those are my boys. And I'm just like one of them. We're not former athletes or experts by no means. We're just fans talking sports.
Yep. And I know you said you lived in Myrtle Beach for almost 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
What was it this is probably going to be an obvious question here, but what was it that led you back to PA?
Well, in 2020, I had, like I said, the sports bar I worked at closed. So I was working at a gym down there, and at night I was running my own little trivia business. So I was out, talking on a microphone, have fun. That's kind of my thing. I like being on a microphone. And that was, we had just started doing this. And then right as the pandemic was getting going, my dad was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So I immediately dropped everything. And I kind of the same way I moved there, I came home not knowing how long I was going to be here. Now, prayers answered. My dad's doing very well. He had the tumor removed and had the radiation. And so we were very fortunate, very blessed that it worked out for my dad the way it did. Cause it's been 5 years now since I've been here. I've moved back it's been 4 years. I moved back in 2020, but that's what brought me home. And I just decided to stay just because I had been away from my family for so long. My sister has kids that are one's in high school, one's in middle school. And, I'm being away from them was kind of tough because they're really my closest family. I don't have kids of my own. I've never been married or anything. So it's just, I'm here for family now. Now I still have a place in Myrtle Beach, but I don't know that I'm going back to live there anytime soon.
Gotcha. And and also while you were in PA, you were at Trinity High School. What did you do at Trinity? I know Eddie said you were the lunch lady is
Yeah.
AD there.
Yeah. So, like I said, wasn't really sure what was going on when I first came back. Everybody was getting that big check every week to get you through the pandemic, and then when that came to an end, I worked for UPS for a little bit, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then a friend of mine, a girl that I went to high school with, she was in charge of the food service at Trinity, my old school district, and I saw her put something on Facebook about needing lunch ladies, and I said, "How about lunch dudes?" She said, "Yeah, come on up, let's give it a try." So I started doing that, and that's kind of what led me into where I'm at now. While I was doing that, I got to be friends with the athletic director, and he was always needing help at Trinity for doing announcing, scoreboards, music, what have you, all that stuff. So I started doing a little bit of that, and that's when I started really getting the itch. I was not on the microphone anymore like I was when I was doing trivia in Myrtle Beach, but I was at sporting events, and I just kept thinking, that's where I belong. I belong at sporting events. I belong talking into a microphone. That's my, as you can tell, I'm talking a lot. That's kind of that's kind of my thing is talking, especially talking sports. So that's when I made the decision to start trying to look into whether I'd go back to school. And I actually got a little bit of inspiration from the athletic director. His name is Ricky Rich, and Ricky he went back. He's almost done now, but started taking classes at Notre Dame. And so he was actually doing some of this online, but having to go there and commute back and forth every like one weekend a month. And I thought, man, if he can do that, I could certainly find a little bit more education, because if I ever want to do any kind of announcing or anything, I'm not going to just get a call. People aren't going to take my word for it that I'm good at it. I have to go get properly trained. I have to go learn a little bit more about the business. And I'll never forget, I was at he had a party at his house. Ricky Rich did. And it was the night, I don't know if you remember, a few seasons ago when Alabama played Tennessee, and it was like a 51-49 game.
Oh yeah, I
it
remember
was a,
that.
remember that game? It was
That was
nuts.
that was a barn burner of a
It was a
contest.
barn burner. Yeah, and so I'm at this party. There's tons of people there, and I'm sitting outside it with like 12-year-old kids. All I'm doing is watching the game. I'm not socializing. All I cared about was that game. I just wanted to watch that game, and I was like, that I have to figure out a way to get myself to be at sporting events where that's where I belong. So I looked into it, and I looked into Waynesburg, and Waynesburg University is known for having a pretty good communications program, but there's a old Pirates announcer there, a guy by the name of Lanny Fratteri. He was the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates from the late 70s till 2009. And I grew up listening to this guy every day, and he was fantastic. He should have won the Ford Frick by now for being in the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he's a professor down there. And so when I looked into it, they said he's getting close to the end of his time. Don't wait. If you're going to do this, do it now while Lanny is still there. So I went down there and had 2 great semesters, and had a dream scenario of doing one of my high school games play by play. Actually, I did 2 of them now with Lanny Fratteri, the guy that I grew up listening to do Pirates broadcast. And it was very surreal, but it was very cool. And he's been very good to me, very kind and supportive of the fact that I was 50 years old when I went back to school. And a big reason I went was to learn from him. And I think he's just absolutely incredible.
That's honestly amazing. You said you're never too old to achieve your dreams, no matter what.
We're trying, Tony.
I mean, yeah, man, like that's really great just to get to work side by side with the what should be a Hall of Fame Pirates announcer, going
He's
back to school and
fantastic.
finishing that up. And what are you doing outside of that? Like, are there any plans to like go full time, go into play by play or anything like that?
Well, at this point, I just graduated this past Sunday, and I did a Trinity game in my old high school on Monday, and I did a Waynesburg game yesterday. Yesterday was the first round of the playoffs, so I got to do that. And so I think what my next step is I'm going to go back to the school. It was kind of tough for me being a senior and a freshman at the same time. I,
Mm.
I, I you know, it was cool that I was able to be able to pull this off, get this second degree in only 2 semesters. But I feel like I still have a lot to learn, especially on the production side of things. So there's the I'm going to get a little bit of help in the summertime from the department. They said you're done, but you're not done with us. So I'm going to go down. There's a young man that's on staff down there that's going to help me, I think, learn a little bit more production wise and help me put together like a portfolio of some of my announcing gigs that I've done already. So I'd like to package that together and then see where it goes. And I've already spoken to a guy. There's a production company down near Waynesburg that covers some high school sports. So that's kind of where I'm at, like beginning wise, as far as, at my age, I'm realistic. I know I don't have time to work myself to be sitting next to Joe Buck or Tony Romo or any of these, big time announcers. But if I can call some high school sports or maybe some small colleges, get a little airtime here and there, that's kind of where I think I'm at with it. So your guess is as good as mine right now. I wish I had a more clear picture of what the next steps were, but I'm kind of just taking small steps right now to get there.
Hey, the fact that you're taking those steps is a miracle. There are people that I'm 31, about to be 32 in June, and there are people my age who, probably haven't yet. And those of you out there who, no matter how old you are, you have time. If you're listening to this, you've got time. Don't rush things.
Yeah, and I regret that I didn't do something like this sooner, but it was, I think, it's you say it's God's plan. You do things on His time, not your own time. But when I first looked into the possibility of doing this, I thought, if I don't, I will always regret not having done it. And it was a little bit of a step back to have to, I quit my job. I liked my lunch lady job. I mean, I was comfortable there, but I thought, well, let's step out of the comfort zone and see what we can do moving forward. Because if I ever want to do anything more with sports announcing, like I said, nobody's going to hire me just because I say, hey, I make good observations, like George Costanza said on Seinfeld one time. Well, I make good comments during games. Well, you gotta go take the next necessary step. So that's where I'm at. So hopefully it pans out. I don't know what doors will open, but I know that if I hadn't done this, they wouldn't open at all. So there would be no open doors. So that's kind of why I tried to do this.
Exactly. And I didn't get started really doing content creation for high school sports until my late 20s. And that, ironically, I did the stuff at TV2, which is Kent State Station. I was 26 years old. I didn't go to this school at the time, but a couple people took me under their wing. I had a video camera, started taking some video, and then ended up with Keon Sports in March. Because in 2018, I didn't even know when or if I'd even have a career in sports doing something like that. And it's going to be 6th season. I'm going into my 6th season in August with it. So say God opens doors when you least expect them. I've been blessed to cover state championships for football, baseball, trying to get into college stuff,
So you're more on production side?
Just video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I wish I had gotten a little bit more out of at Waynesburg, because I used to do some video editing and stuff back at Overtime, and I had a lot of fun with that. And that is, that's such a big part of it. And these sports pros I work with, man, these guys are brilliant when it comes to that stuff. These guys have such sound technical minds, Eddie and B Live, what they do. I feel like I'm the old dummy when it comes. I think I'm 10 years older than both of them. So it's they hold that end down, and then I try to do the causing trouble and picking topics kind of part of thing. I act like I'm the smartest one of the bunch, but I'm probably the dumbest of the three of us.
I remember, I think you wore a Clemson shirt one time, and B Live was like, wait, what? What?
Yeah. So when I was down there in South Carolina, I knew that every once in a while I needed to play the part. So I'd throw a Clemson shirt on if they were playing, or I'd throw a Gamecock shirt on if they were playing. And since broken both of them out. I'm actually a fan of neither, to be completely honest. I always tell B Live, when Clemson's doing well, like, man, we're really doing good. But I grew up as a Pitt fan, so I'm still I like the Pitt Panthers when it comes to college sports.
Gotcha. I like Cincy. I like Charlotte because I got family from North Carolina.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I like Kentucky as well as far as their basketball, and I like Alabama in football.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the. I know Eddie pointed this out in a Sports Bros podcast episode that I'm a Saints fan. I like Alabama. I have a Coastal Carolina hoodie. I bought a Louisville shirt recently. So,
But you like who you like, and I get a lot of flack for that because I'm from Pittsburgh, but I like the Dallas Cowboys. I'm in the NBA. I like the Lakers. Sorry, I grew up a Magic Johnson fan, and I've never strayed from that.
So you like the Yankees in baseball?
I do like. Well, I do. I am primarily a Pirate fan. I will say that my hardcore loyalties lie with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Gotcha.
But I remember when I was a kid and like the '81 World Series, watching Yankees and Dodgers. And '81's a long time ago, but I remember watching that World Series and being kind of fascinated by the Yankees, and then started learning the history of baseball, the Babe Ruths and Mickey Mantles, and I was just drawn to that. And then they had Ricky Henderson, and he was a base stealer, and I love the base stealer when it comes to baseball. That's like, to me, I think that's the most fun playing baseball is the stolen base, and I love base stealers. So yeah, so I love the Yankees. I'm a hardcore Pirate fan, but yes, I am unapologetically a Yankee fan also. So yeah, my sports loyalties they bounce on it. I don't care. You want to make fun of me? Go ahead. I don't care. I root for my teams.
Yeah.
Because I want my teams to win, not like B Live, so I can go jump on you and rub it in your face. That's what he likes to do. He likes to be the one that calls you and taunts you and laughs at you. I'm not that fan. I'm just a guy who wants my teams to win a game once in a while,
Ooh. Imagine what if the Sports Bros podcast was around when Pitt beat Clemson that one year in Clemson.
Yeah, and that was funny too because at the beginning of the year, my bartender at overtime that year was a big Clemson fan. And I remember telling him, it's going to be really cool when Pitt beats Clemson this year and Clemson still wins the national championship. And that is exactly what happened. And I totally did not believe that Pitt was going to win that game that year. I did know that Clemson was going to legitimately have a chance to win the national championship, but I thought, let me be cute here and just say, yeah, Pitt's going to beat you guys, but you'll still win the national championship. So Pitt will really be the national champions because they beat Clemson. And when it happened that way, I was stunned. I was like, I tried to act cocky about it, but I didn't really believe that it was going to happen that way.
And they ended up beating number 2 Miami as well one year.
Yeah, they did. They sure did. They've had a couple big wins. Pitt has just been inconsistent with that program. But we had a blast a couple years ago when 2 falls ago when those guys came up here. Clemson played Pitt, and that was the last time the three of us were actually physically together for that weekend that Pitt and Clemson played. And Pitt won that game. Clemson was a little down that year. It wasn't their best season, but Pitt had Kenny Pickett, and things were starting to look up for Pitt that year. And yeah, we had a really good time. I went pretty easy on B Live on that one. I didn't really hammer him too badly on that.
Honestly, 9-4. If 9-4 is a down year, that's a good year. Because I remember Clemson they were 4-4. Some were called in asking if Dabo was going to get fired. You just congratulations. You just gave them fuel to win out the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I think I think Dabo is one of the premier coaches when it comes to college football, and I think Clemson is probably one of the and because of how the type of person Dabo is, I think Clemson's one of those programs that took a little hit from this new brand of college football, the transfer portal, the NIL kids getting paid. That college football has become a mess. I think had that not happened, Clemson probably would have continued to be one of the more dominant programs. Fallen off a little bit the last couple of years, but yeah, college football it's a mess. And that's a shame because I know like that's B Live. That's one of his favorites. College football has always kind of been secondary for me because I never was a fan of the bowl system, the BCS. I always thought there should be a playoff. Well, now we're getting that, but we're also getting all this other junk that goes with it. The conferences folding and
Oh,
relocate teams.
Pac-12.
Yeah, the
Might be Pac-12 after dark.
Yeah, what a shame. I mean, the Pac-12 was just like dissolving before our eyes.
Well, it exists by the skin of its teeth if you have Washington State and Oregon State, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's they got teams that aren't. Then a couple of teams go to the ACC.
Yes, Stanford, Cal. What is it?
Yeah,
about
on the West Coast playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference,
or Southern Methodist, a Texas team.
Yeah, college football has become a mess.
I've got my thoughts about that. I will say that the bubble is going to expand to the point where the conference re-regionalize in 10 years.
I could see that.
The bubble's going to pop eventually, like the dot-com bubble of the 2000s. It's going to pop, and those teams are going to end up re-regionalizing again. So the Pac-12 will be back, and the playoff. This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I kind of like the BCS format.
Did you? See, yeah. I could just remember 1 year Auburn was undefeated, and undefeated SEC team not having an opportunity to play for a championship. Yeah, that was a travesty.
Oh.
And remember who was it? Boise State had that big game with was it Oklahoma?
Yeah.
They and that was the end of the season. Like, wouldn't you have loved to have seen Boise State, like that'd be a game where they advance, and imagine how hot the country would have been to watch them.
Oh yeah,
like in March Madness, you get a Cinderella team that gets hot, and everybody jumps on that, and you watch a team go unexpectedly through the Sweet 16 into the Final Four. That was something I always felt that college football was missing with that old format. That you could get behind somebody that you don't normally watch, and then get to see a little bit additional playing time from them. So. Yeah, I was not a fan of that system.
Gotcha. And a couple more questions before we wrap up. What's been your favorite SportsBros Podcast episode that you've been a part
of? Wow, that's.
I know you've got about 250, soon to be 250 episodes.
Yeah, we've had so many different fun moments that a lot of that blurs together as far as individual episodes. We had probably one that stands out a good bit is we interviewed a friend of mine who works at Villanova University a couple years ago on the week of the Final Four, and that was the year that Villanova, North Carolina, Duke, and Kansas were in the Final Four. And he I forget his exact position I should, because he was my best friend in high school, but he's in the media part of like sports information part of the department for Villanova. And he came on and was kind of walking us through what a week looked like, trying to get all that together and traveling with the team and all that, and gave us some real good insight. And that was a fun episode for me because he was a good friend of mine. And it was significant that, here's a guy that's going to be at the Final Four in 3 days. And so that one was a lot of fun. But, we have a lot of fun things that we do on there that, like when we first started going to video, I thought that was kind of fun. The first maybe 2 years, we didn't do anything like this. It was just strictly audio. And then those guys said, let's do a Zoom call. And it changed things because now we're seeing each other and we're able to play off each other a little bit better than just hearing each other on the old school way we did it. So I'd say that's probably best I could come up with without really like going back and re-listening to some of the individual episodes.
Gotcha. Because I know when you've put together 250 episodes in 5 years, it's probably going to be hard to sift through every single one.
Yeah. And in the early days, like I said, we were just hearing each other. I thought that we were rambling too long sometimes. And I remember maybe about the 10th or 12th episode, we had one that I thought, man, that was really good. Like, you're not going to be good at it when you first start doing it. But I remember like we did one, it was very early, and I thought, man, I felt like it really clicked today. And I think we do better with that now. Like we're aware of time and not dragging on too long, because if you go longer than an hour, who's really going to, we're just wasting our time. People aren't going to listen to you much longer than that. You will have some people, but a lot of people this is a short soundbite kind of world we live in now. You watch Pardon the Interruption, they have a clock on there. They're only going to talk about one topic for a minute and a half and then move on to something else. And we've been conditioned as a society with short attention spans. So if we try to compete with some of these other longer podcasts, we won't be able to do it. We're lucky to get the listeners we do. So let's feed them what they want. Let's make our points, have a little fun, have some laughs, and let's move on.
Absolutely. Scotty D, it was great getting a chance to talk to you. Any last words or any piece of advice you could give before we end the show?
Well, if my partners watch this, that's how it's done, boys, just like that. And I appreciate you for being faithful and a faithful listener and follower of ours, and for sharing. I know you've shared us with other people, and so I greatly am appreciative of you. And I look forward to doing this again at some point with those other two guys here. And I thank you. I'm very flattered and honored that you asked me to be on here with you this week.
Hey, I'm glad to get a chance to get an interview with you, man. You guys can check out Tapped In with Tony on Spotify. You can check it out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Thanks again for coming on the show, and we will see you guys next time.
Go Cowboys.